Number 5 on this list is a prediction from Nostradamus. All of these prediction videos need at least one Nostradamus appearance, and this time we're going to be talking about how he's predicted an attack on the human race from artificial intelligence. Nostradamus had a very famous collection of poetic quatrains called the Prophecies, which dictate things to come in our world. He's certainly been proven wrong several times, but has also had his fair share of correct guesses as well. This specific poetic quatrain is as follows: robots will destroy mankind. Those of Lake Geneva and of Masson all assembled against those of Aquitaine, many Germans, many more Swiss. They will be routed along with those of the humane. So breaking this down a little bit, he says that robots will destroy mankind. And I mean, I feel like that's pretty straightforward what he's trying to say there. But then he talks about Geneva, Masson, and Aquitaine, which are all regions in France, and then Germany and Switzerland. He says that they will die along with the humane, so people. Now, I'm not really sure why he felt it necessary to specify those specific people and places if robots are meant to take over the entire world, but potentially they'll be attacked first. AI is getting more and more advanced every single day, and it is proven that it can be vastly smarter than a human being. Providing this AI with consciousness is something that is still a work in progress, but many scientists, billionaires, experts on the subject, they all believe that AI will one day rule the world. From what I've heard so far, I honestly tend to agree with them. However, I don't think that it will be a great war with laser beams and an actual battlefield like some may be predicting. I think that if they're gonna beat us, it's gonna be in a different way. I could definitely see something like this taking place though. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen in 2022, but with the way that technology is advancing, I mean, I definitely can't rule it out. Number 4 on this list is the eruption of Yellowstone. For those of you who don't know, Yellowstone is a super volcano that is located in Wyoming in the United States. Now, I know that the term super volcano sounds like the coolest thing in the entire world, but I promise you that things wouldn't be super cool if this thing ever exploded. In fact, things would get very hot very fast. A supervolcano's explosion is thousands of times more powerful than that of a regular volcano and extremely deadly. That's because this volcano is fed by several miles of hot magma underneath the surface. Now the magma, although it would be major and annihilate everything in the surrounding area, that wouldn't actually be the biggest problem with this thing erupting. It would be the ash. If Yellowstone was to erupt, then practically the entire United States and parts of Canada would get covered in several feet of ash, rock, glass. This would be enough to kill millions of people, destroy all of the crops and agriculture in the area, destroy electrical lines, buildings, like it would destroy a lot. All of this ash would have a dramatic effect on the air that we breathe as well. This could become extremely toxic to us and would then further kill millions of people. It would also have a huge impact on climate change too, and not in a good way. An explosion of this caliber would be so devastating that it's hard to even comprehend. Now the positive here is that most experts don't believe that Yellowstone is set to have an eruption like this for thousands of years. However, that hasn't stopped people from predicting that Yellowstone is going to explode this year or the next year or maybe even the year after that. In all honesty, even though scientists have a pretty good understanding of this, we never really know the full story. Yellowstone could just erupt whenever it feels like it, and there would be absolutely nothing that we can do about it. For now, we just have to hope that the experts got this one right and that we're safe for a little while, because living in an apocalyptic ash world, not my idea of a good time. Number 3 on this list is another one coming in from Nostradamus. It's actually insane how many predictions this guy made. He almost touched 1,000. This one though doesn't relate to a major AI attack, but has to do with the demolition of our world in a different way. A big meteor shower that could cause some cataclysmic disasters. Nostradamus writes, very near Auch, Lecture, and Mirande, a great fire will fall from the sky for 3 nights. The cause will appear both stupefying and marvelous. Shortly afterwards, there will be an earthquake. So once again, let's break down what Nostradamus is saying here. The places that he listed are all areas of France. Now he believes that this great fire from the sky, as he puts it, will happen very close to these areas. This will happen for 3 straight nights, and I can only assume that it won't only be the night, but he's probably talking about the full 72 hours of 3 days. This great fire will then cause an earthquake. Now, nowhere in here does he say specifically that the entire planet will burn or fall apart during this great fire. But if we were to experience asteroids hitting the Earth for 72 hours straight, and assuming that they were large enough to cause an earthquake to happen, then I don't see any way that our planet could possibly survive an event like this. If these veered off enough to land in the ocean, then the tidal waves that this could cause would be massive. Not to mention the damage to the people of France. Obviously, this is all dependent on the size of the asteroids that are hitting the Earth, but like I said, if they're big enough to cause an earthquake, we are probably all going to die in some massive natural disaster caused by these things hitting the planet for 72 hours straight. Number 2 on this list is a massive all-out nuclear war. This isn't a prediction from just one person, but by tons of people. A nuclear weapon has been used twice during warfare in human history, both times by the United States against Japan in 1945. Even though 2 doesn't seem like a lot, that is still way more times than this weapon ever should have been used. That is simply due to the absolutely catastrophic damage that a nuclear weapon can cause. This damage comes from the initial mushroom cloud explosion that vaporizes and burns anything in its radius, and then also the massive fallout of radiation from an explosion of this size. The radiation poisoning will last for years and years, and is so detrimental to humans and the environment. The 2 times that the bomb was used was so disastrous that no one has used one ever since to target humans. However, that doesn't mean that we didn't continue to make them. Right now, the world is home to roughly 14,000 of these weapons. This number is honestly ridiculous, and even though it's been slowly dropping as people disarm them, it is still enough to completely annihilate the planet. Experts estimate that any nation that fired 100 of these weapons on somebody would actually begin harming their own nation by doing it. Not only would this completely destroy whatever country was the recipient of 100 nuclear bombs, but the environmental pushback would be so costly that the country who released them would have mass deaths of their own. The amount of soot and ash that would fill the skies would cool the planet dramatically, as the rays of the sun would then bounce off of them. Lack of natural sunlight caused by all of the ash and the reduced precipitation that it would cause would greatly impact the growth of food. So much so that the experts believe most countries, they couldn't feed themselves. Basically, 100 nuclear weapons exploding is the magic number when it comes to world-ending scenarios. Nuclear war isn't guaranteed to happen, but rumblings of World War III have been going on for quite some time. The state of the Middle East is troubling to say the least, and I for one would not be surprised if somehow things escalated to a point where these weapons got involved and we blew all of humanity into oblivion. Let's cross our fingers and hope that the people with the power to push the button think twice before doing so. Number 1 on this list is the melting of the ice caps. Ice caps are large, thick pieces of ice that cover big areas of land located at the North and South Poles. There are billions of tons of ice in both locations, home to many species. However, this stuff is melting, and it's melting really fast. In fact, people estimate that every single year we are losing anywhere from 750 billion to about 1.3 trillion tons of ice. Put that number in perspective, folks. 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, and we are losing 1 trillion of those. That number is so extremely large that our human brains can't even really fathom what that looks like. This isn't slowing down either. People believe that 2022 could see a massive jump in the amount of ice that is about to melt. Now, maybe you're thinking, it's just ice, why does it matter? Well, it matters because if all of this ice melts in the world, then New York City, Tokyo, Beijing, St. Petersburg, almost the entire state of Florida, these will be completely submerged in water. Island nations will be destroyed. The Central Americas won't really exist anymore, and climate change will skyrocket because our natural cooling system, the ice, will all be gone. This is already happening in some places as well. Tuvalu is a Pacific island nation that is starting to evacuate their people to New Zealand because their entire country is getting flooded. Millions and millions will die, and millions more will become homeless. Ecosystems will fall flat, and agriculture will suffer. The climate will continue to skyrocket, and there will be no coming back from it after that. This also isn't even factoring in the diseases that could be released from these glaciers, because I've already covered those in another video. This is real and is happening right now and will assuredly continue to get far worse in 2022. It truly is an end of the world scenario and needs to be addressed immediately. Number 5 on this list is the continued damaging effects of climate change. That's right guys, we're going there. In 2021, temperatures in North America had some record-setting numbers. Over the last few years, temperatures have been rising significantly and 2021 was no different. The west coast of Canada and the United States were the hottest that they've ever been this past year in 2021, and we saw what rising temperatures can cause. Forest fires raged in British Columbia and in California, and with the temperatures continuing to rise, this will only get worse and worse. Something concerning as well is that the nighttime temperature was hotter than it's ever been. Typically, it's very hot in the day and then gets pretty cool in the nighttime. This allows our bodies to cool off when we sleep. However, in 2021, the temperature during the night didn't drop nearly as drastically as it usually does. And this is because the Earth is holding on to that heat in the atmosphere and it's having a hard time escaping. With all of this being said, and the fact that no real dramatic change has been made to our greenhouse gas emissions, scientists predict that this trend will continue in 2022. They've come out and said that between 2021 and 2025, there is a 90% chance that we will have the warmest global year ever. They also predict that there is a 40% chance that in that same time frame, we will reach 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than what our global temperature was at pre-industrial days. All of this heat also means that they're predicting a lot more tropical storms as well. The frequency of cyclones in the Atlantic area is supposed to rise. Forest fires, as I mentioned earlier, will continue to rage and be harder to suppress. And southwestern North America is likely to be a lot drier than it's ever been. Basically, scientists believe that 2022 will continue to break climate change records and be pretty detrimental to the Earth. Number 4 on this list is a prediction from Baba Vanga. This one is pretty bloody triggering, and I can only hope that she's wrong about it. Baba Vanga thinks that in 2022 there will be a deadly virus that is released from a glacier and that will ravage the world. Now, if you don't know who Baba Vanga is, then she was a woman who lost her eyes at a very young age, but then developed the ability to have visions. She's also made a lot of correct predictions over the years, with people saying that she has an 85% success rate. Brexit, the Syrian gas attacks, the first United States black president, all of this stuff was predicted by Baba Vanga. In 2022, she is saying that a glacier will melt due to global warming, and that in that ice will be a virus that will get released into the world and our human immune systems won't be ready for it. After COVID, I cannot handle any more viruses or diseases or anything like that at all. The sad thing is though, that this could very well actually happen. We already spoke about global warming and how it is continuing to rise, with 2022 having the potential to be the hottest year ever. This is obviously causing the glaciers on the poles to melt. Now, the whole aspect of having a virus released because of this kind of sounds like it was taken straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually accurate. Scientists have found viruses in the ice before, and after testing them, have realized that they are nothing like what we've ever seen. Therefore, our bodies would not be capable of fending off these viruses because they have never encountered anything that's similar to them. Some of these viruses may not even affect humans either, but they could affect animals or plants. This could be just as detrimental though, as it has the potential to absolutely annihilate the ecosystem. Either way guys, we just have to cross our fingers and hope that any viruses found in the ice aren't too dangerous, and we just dodge this bullet altogether. Number 3 on this list is another catastrophic economic recession. Yep guys, it's time to talk money, or well, I guess in this instance it would be the lack of money. After the massive economic recession that took place a little over a decade ago, everyone is still on high alert, doing their best to make certain that we don't fall into that trap ever again. This is easier said than done though, because there are often extenuating circumstances that are out of our control. For instance, COVID. That really hurt the economy and nobody saw that coming. Stuff like that is kind of impossible to predict. However, that doesn't stop people from trying to look ahead and see what the next economic year will hold for us. Right now, a positive economic recovery is seen as very likely due to many people believing that 2022 is supposed to be the first normal year back after the pandemic. People will have savings that they want to spend, they go out, they spend them, bang, the economy loves it. But experts believe that this level of economic optimism has reached an unstable place. The stock market is predicting such a big boom, and the experts don't think that the money will actually hold up to what they're predicting. It should also be noted that the percentage chance of an economic recession has been slowly rising over the last few months. Right now, it's believed that in July of next year, there will be just under a 10% chance that the entire United States economy goes into a major recession. A 1 in 10 chance, it's not horrible, but when you're playing with people's life savings and their jobs, that gets a lot scarier very quickly. Economic optimism can be a good thing, but overconfidence can bring us to a very scary place, as seen by the housing market collapse of 2007. Number 2 on this list is a prediction by Nostradamus. Now, would this really be a 2022 predictions list video if we didn't have Nostradamus in it? He's basically a staple whenever it comes to scary predictions. This time, he believes that a major climate war will start in 2022. For those of you who aren't familiar with Nostradamus, he was a French astrologer and seer in the 1500s. Now, we still talk about him today though, due to his major work called The Prophecies. The Prophecies is a collection of poetic quatrains that predict things to come in the world. Nostradamus has been proved correct with some of his prophecies, such as the death of Henry II, the Great Fire of London, and the French Revolution. We actually talked a little bit about Nostradamus in a previous video looking at the top 5 mysterious people who tried to warn us about the apocalypse. In 2021, Nostradamus believed that zombies would take over the world. Pretty outlandish if you ask me, but the one that we're talking about today is a little bit more reasonable in my opinion. Nostradamus says, under the opposite Babylonian climate, great will be without the outpouring. As we've already spoken about, climate change will be greatly affecting our world. Could it be possible that a country has a shortage of resources due to this climate change and has to go to war? Potentially a lack of clean drinking water could cause some type of chaos between two nations? Maybe the world enacts new climate change laws that one country refuses to follow and therefore goes to war with some other nations. I'm not sure what it's gonna be, but all of these things, they could have potential. The one thing about Nostradamus is that he was never very specific with his predictions and often left it up for interpretation. But I do think that a war involving something climate-based is certainly a possibility and would be particularly horrible because war could only ever hurt the climate even more. Number 1 on this list is another prediction from Baba Vanga about a dragon taking over the world. That's right folks, clearly Baba Vanga was a very busy lady while she was alive and had multiple predictions for the year 2022. In this one, she believes that a dragon will take over the entire planet. In fact, she is quoted as saying, "A strong dragon will seize humanity. The 3 giants will unite. Some people will have red money. I see numbers 100, 5, and many zeros." So we have a lot going on here. We have dragons, giants, money that is red, and some strange numbers that kinda came out of nowhere. If we take what Baba Vanga said literally, then I can almost guarantee you that it won't come true. In my entire living life, I have never seen a dragon before, and as much as I would love to believe that they're real, I think it's safe to say that one is not going to appear next year and ravage the planet. That being said though, if we break down what she said a little bit more, then there could be some serious truth in what she's saying. Specialists of Baba Vanga believe that when she is referring to a dragon, she's actually talking about China. The giants that she's referring to, interpreters believe are the 3 biggest countries in Asia: China, Russia, and India. Therefore, they will unite as a force, and the dragon, China, will take over the world. The money being read could be in reference to yuan, and the denominations of 100 or 5 could be referring to some important monetary number of those yuan that hasn't been made clear to us at this point. Now, if we take her meaning as I just described it, it actually doesn't sound nearly as outlandish as it did when we were talking about dragons. However, this would be pretty freaking bad because I can only imagine that the giants uniting and the dragon taking over the world would mean a massive all-out war. If China, India, and Russia are involved, that also means that the use of nuclear weapons would probably take place, in which case 2022, it's really gonna be a lousy year, guys.
Coming in at number 5, zombies. You heard me right. The Walking Dead, resurrected corpses, humanoids returning to the mortal realm past their expiry date. About a decade ago, zombies had a big cultural moment. They were at the center of every major pop culture institution, with movies, TV shows, comics, and survival guides being produced left, right, and center. For this reason, I would assume plenty of folks would be ready if the dead started roaming the earth once more. Although I assumed the same about survivalists during a global pandemic, and look where that got us. Regardless, I would have to think a zombie plague taking the world by storm would be a bad thing. Worse, after seeing how unprepared we were for an actual sweeping pandemic. And here's the thing, zombies are fun when used in media, sure, but we definitely don't want to come face to face with rotting, shambling, biting corpses. But Nostradamus contends that we might have to deal with that sooner than we think. The legendary fortune teller has predicted plenty, kinda like The Simpsons, way before writers' rooms and syndicated television were a thing. He penned countless predictions, many of which have come true, although most of the time they don't do much to help us prepare. It's kind of a hindsight is 2020 situation. Hold on, hindsight is 2020? Funny that. But it is said that Nostradamus made some predictions specifically about 2021, and one of them said zombies were on the way. His quote goes like this: "Few young people, half dead to give a start. Dead through spite, he will cause the others to shine. And in an exalted place, some great evils to occur, sad concepts will come to harm each one. Temporal dignified, the mass to succeed. Fathers and mothers dead of infinite sorrows. Women in mourning, the pestilent she-monster. The great one to be no more, all the world to end." Pretty bleak, you know. The language doesn't necessarily match up with ours one-to-one, but you get the idea. The pestilent she-monster, the great one to be no more, all the world to end. It doesn't sound too good now, does it? Hopefully we're better equipped to handle this potential pestilence than we think. Number 4, famine. Another great fear across societies and ages. Not enough food for everyone. Seems kind of crazy in this day and age, you know? But honestly, the way things are managed, it could be more likely than you think. See, usually famine is caused by a number of things. Bad weather leading to poor crop yields, followed by less than stellar distribution, resulting in hungry people. But at this point in our technologically advanced world, those poor crop yields shouldn't affect people too badly in the long run. There's incredible amounts of surplus food that just gets tossed at the end of each day thanks to the way we've come to understand supply and demand. Grocery stores, restaurants, and even farms have had to dump leftover and difficult to transport food because nobody was able to profit off it. So even if we have enough food for everyone, folks could possibly go hungry. It's been like this for a while now. Hell, even recently we saw a bit of this. With the recent chaos in Texas, plenty of people were forced out of their homes. While searching for food, they came across dumpsters full of still edible groceries and started to take what they could. It wasn't too long before police were called in to defend this discarded food until it could be properly disposed of. Now, does that sound like a modern famine to you? Nostradamus could be onto something here. After great trouble for humanity, a greater one is prepared. The great mover renews the ages. Rain, blood, milk, famine, steel, and plague. Is the heavens' fire seen, a long spark running? Even if the famine isn't exclusively man-made, it could definitely be made worse by the arrival of extreme weather. I'll refer to Texas once again, as the extended period of unexpected cold caused untold amount of damage. If stuff like that's being predicted by Nostradamus to happen on a larger scale, we could be in for quite the doozy. Number 3, asteroids. Now for the final and craziest Nostradamus prediction I'll mention on this list, we could end up going the way of the dinosaurs. It's happened once, why not again, right? And why not in 2021? We're all waiting for the other shoe to drop. The prediction goes like this. In the sky, one sees fire and a long trail of sparks. Oh boy. So if that is the case, we might end up staring down the enormous piece of space rock that tends to come with fire and a long trail of sparks. Hopefully it's not too huge, because that could end us all. A worthy season finale, sure, but are we ready to give up on humanity on season 2021? I feel like we were just getting to know the characters now. I mean, this could end up going a bunch of different ways. It could be a little meteorite making a crater out in the desert somewhere, or maybe just a meteor destined to burn up in the atmosphere and give us something pretty to look at. Although the way things have gone, one might be ready to expect the worst, which would mean a massive space rock touching down and rocking our world. Wouldn't be fun. I feel like it would play out like Judgment Day in Terminator 2. A bunch of folks grabbing out of chain link fences and burning to ash. At least it would be cinematic, and probably over quicker than zombies and famine. Coming in at number 2, COVID variants. Now, this has already started to happen across the world, and epidemiologists seem to think that it will continue to mutate and spread. After a solid year of the initial strain of COVID making its way around the world, of course the virus was going to find a way to more effectively spread between people. One variant wasn't enough, so we had the difficulty cranked up to legendary. Thankfully, it seems that the vaccines have a similar efficacy across all variants, which is good, although the newer variants seem to spread a little faster, so we have to try and keep up. But if you want to be a true gloom and doomer, you could look to the predictions that say COVID might manage to outpace the vaccine altogether, meaning different prevention measures would have to be implemented. Not a sunshiny outlook for sure. Plenty of folks saw 2021 as the light at the end of the tunnel. Vaccines, transmission rates dropping, peace and love, sports bars reopening with in-house chicken wing deals. And really, that's what's keeping me going these days. So to predict that the variants will make things a whole lot harder is quite the scary proposition indeed. Maybe we should be a little extra careful for the next little bit. And coming in at number 1, 2022. No, not next January, that's a whole other video. What I mean to say is that 2021 could be just like 2020, but more. We're only in March, which means there's a whole lot more year to get through. March is also when this whole thing really took off last year, and a whole lot of folks are wondering where all that time went. The scariest prediction of all is that we're now in an unofficial time loop, doomed to repeat the same actions over and over and over again. Lockdown, toilet paper shortage, retail madness, small businesses shutting down, unlockdown, mega corporations raking in the cash, people losing it in quarantine, lockdown again, folks deciding to risk it despite the damage they could cause, sourdough, frothy coffee, unlockdown, anti-maskers, political upheaval, podcasts, plant-based meat, giving yourself bangs, lockdown, marathoning movies, constant streaming, more memes, and even more. Cycling through it all while unable to really connect with your loved ones, continuing on and on and on until the heat death of the universe. It sounds pretty bleak, but we've done it once already, right? Why not a few hundred more times? People are itching for a change after a year in lockdown, so this one might not actually end up coming true, but the idea is pretty freaky, right? Anyone out there shaking in their boots? It is a tough world out there, and these predictions don't do much to make it any easier. We'll figure out ways to navigate whatever comes our way for sure, but nobody needs more terror forced upon them. So, what'd you think of the list?